Welcome back to Inside Sources. On this segment, we are going to have a deepened conversation on the future of Nigeria. And in this segment, I have two guests. Joining us virtually from Lagos, we have Opeyemi Adamolekun, the Executive Director of Enough is Enough Nigeria, and the 2022 winner of the Global Citizen Prize. Opeyemi, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
Here with me in the studio, we have Malam Baba Yusuf, the Group Chief Executive Officer of Global Investment and Trade Company, who is also a strategist, a policy analyst, and a newspaper columnist. Malam Baba Yusuf, welcome back to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me yet again, Prof. Good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Right, so let's start with Opeyemi. Now, if you take a look at where the country is today, and I wanted to take a comprehensive look at the government, the people, and the various sectors of the Nigerian life, are we all going in the same direction? And then, is it the right direction to bring a great Nigeria? Opeyemi?
Well, thank you. And it's an interesting question, because to determine if we're going in the right direction, there needs to be some benchmark for what that direction is. So have we decided that we want to go north, or we've decided we want to go west, or we've decided we want to go east, or we've decided we want to go south? So as far as I know, I'm not quite sure that there's a clarity that we have as Nigerians decided in what direction we're going. So in the absence of a agreed objective, agreed target, agreed direction, I can only say that we'll only, just by nature of humanity, we'll all be going in different directions, because where there's not an agreed target, not an agreed destination. That's the word I'm looking for. So in that regard, I don't even think we can then make an assessment of if it's the right direction, because we haven't decided where we're going.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to follow up on that. But let's hear from Malam. The same question. What's your take?
Well, I think there is need for us to reevaluate how far we have come and how we really need to move forward as a nation. There is this notion by Nigerians majorly that, which is largely so, but not completely so, that the progress of Nigeria should be hinged or placed on the shoulders of a segment of a particular people, i.e., quote and unquote, the leaders, whether they are political leaders, traditional leaders, whatnot, especially in this particular instance, the political leaders. I'm a proponent of what I've coined to call the leadership value chain. And I believe, to come back to your question, are we moving in the right direction? I think there is need for us to adjust the direction at which we are going. And one of the key things that will redirect that movement is the amendment of the 1999 Constitution, which has been kickstarted. The socioeconomic malaise in this country, even though largely, is placed on the shoulders of those that has aspired and have gotten the position of power, from president to leaders as subnational, along the arms of leadership, I dare say also part of the key causative agents of where we are with regards to the slow motion and trajectory of our development is the citizens of this country. And within that context, I would like to, quote, one very interesting, excerpt of an article written in 2013 by a renowned Indian author and philanthropist, Mrs. Rohini Lelekani, which stuck with me. She says, and I quote, "We cannot be mere consumers of good governance. We must be participants. We must be co-creators. As citizens, we have to co-create good governance. We cannot outsource it and hope to be passively happy consumers. Like everything worth its while, good governance must be earned." We are all leaders, end of quote. We are all leaders in our various spheres and our various, in various strata of society, Prof. And if you see what has been happening, if you take this particular administration from, inception to date, and all the activities that have happened within the context of leadership value chain, within the political class, you will agree with me, what I call the focal point leader is not enough to drive a positive change, i.e. the president or the leaders are subnational. Indeed, he is a driver, but there is need for what I call the collectiveness of the leadership value chain for Nigeria to be redirected. And that is why, to land in this particular instance, I call on Nigerians not to be armchair critics, and participants, but to be actively, participating in the redirection of Nigeria. One of the key components of that is the amendment of the 1999 Constitution.
Okay.
The elites of this country need to understand that unless you participate in the political process, whether it is in elections, whether it is in participate in amending the constitutions, then we cannot sit back and start blaming the political class, whereas most of the people, with due respect, in the National Assembly do not have subject matter expertise or content to actually craft the laws in a way and manner that would push Nigeria or move Nigeria in the right direction.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that opening statement. So I want to come back to Yemi. So you spoke about the fact that we had not even agreed regarding the direction that we want to go. So Yemi, do you want to give a little bit more detail on that, particularly why you think that we are not agreed, and how do we agree, or don't we have to agree?
Oh, we certainly have to agree. And I'll pick up where the other guests left off in terms of you can't be mere consumers of good governance. And I agree 100%. And that's why the organization that I work with leads on this campaign called Office of the Citizen. So we tend to defer power to Office of the President, Office of the Governor, because obviously the Office of the President is the highest elected office in the country. So we tend to defer power because we say we elected them and they have power, quote unquote. But at the heart of the matter, that the power actually lies with citizens. And the Constitution says that. I don't remember the exact frame off the top of my head, but go to the Nigerian Constitution, it's there.
True.
But it talks about the fact that citizens have power and that people we elect into office have power in trust. So to the point that cannot be mere consumers, that we must co-create, and that's the whole idea. So for those that we've elected or get appointed into office, they have power because we have ceded power to them, in the sense that, the three of us, if we want to agree on if we're eating fried rice, jollof rice, or fada rice, or whatever other rice there is, it might take a while. But so we appoint people who make decisions on ideally for the collective good, in the interest of the majority of the people. But I think we can't escape the fact that even though we're 25 years into Nigeria's this republic, there's nothing in Nigeria's structure, be it curriculum or engagement, that teaches Nigerians what a democracy means. The only reason why you can co-create good governance in this context is that's how a democracy should be practiced. We say a democracy is a system of government for the people, by the people, of the people. But if the people don't understand they have power, they can't demand it and they can't exercise that power. And it seems, in my view, that the way the Nigerian sort of governance structure is set up, it's for people not to know they have power. So if you don't know it's your right, you won't demand for it. So the whole concept of the Office of the Citizen is that there are rights and responsibilities of citizenship. Now, we can have a whole nother kind of conversation about, does every Nigerian feel like they are a citizen of this country? So, and this goes back to the initial point about, are we going in the same direction? I would say, and I would say it very clearly, that there's some Nigerians in Nigeria today who do not believe that they are treated as equals in this national construct. And that's why my dear friend Aisha Yusufu would say that no Nigerian is more Nigerian than the other. That's true in theory. But in practice, I dare say that's not true. And we see it in everything from the judiciary, from our educational system, from our healthcare system, from even on the roads. Depending on where you are and you're driving, you can be literally shooed off the road because somebody else that has a car that's deemed to be more expensive wants to pass. So we have multiple layers on why these things are problematic. The issue of citizenship, the issue of understanding what it means to be a citizen, even if, let's say, we all are, and what that confers on you in terms of power, and then the idea of co-creating governance. How do you co-create governance when the people that you've elected into office or who are appointed into office are unapproachable or unreachable? So during elections, everybody is campaigning, there's a lot of noise. Now we want to amend the Constitution. It's a full-page ad in the paper. If you happen to be on social media, you might see it. But the same people that spent millions of naira campaigning to different local governments and talking to people now want to amend and I'm using the Constitution as an example.
Right.
Now want to amend what, in a sense, is the Bible or the Quran of the country, like what all of us work with. And it's just a few press statements, and just everybody should just know that we are amending the Constitution. And then lastly, I'll land on that, amending the Constitution. It's a yearly, every assembly has a budget to amend the Constitution. So we just do it. It's a thing that we do. It's a rite of passage. It's a way to spend money. We do hearings. We spend money on adverts. We do convenings. We spend money on lobbying as people pass. And obviously, to amend the Constitution, it's not just in Abuja. We have to get the state governments involved. So we're doing all of that, and it's just motion, activity. Are we going to continue to do this? Every 4 years, we'll amend our Constitution, because that's now what we do. Why? Because again, it goes back to my original point. We're not agreed on what it is that we are doing and why we are doing it. And so we've had, and this is not to say that we need yet another national conference or yet another national conversation, because at the heart of why we keep going back at these things is a dishonesty with ourselves about what it is we're doing and why, and what this construct of Nigeria means. We have 36 states. It's technically a federation, but we see that the central government keeps amassing more and more power, when technically you should be dissolving power so states can do their thing. So if Enugu is not working for me, but Kaduna has better policies for my government, they're more welcoming for what I want to do, my children can go to school, I'll up and move from Enugu and go to Kaduna. But then we talk about indigenship. What's the other thing we call those things? What's local government? What's state of origin? And we start discriminating against ourselves within that, yet we say we are one country. So many issues, and quite a good, healthy dose of no, it's not healthy. A unhealthy dose of dishonesty about what we're doing.
I want to hear final points starting from Yemi, but let me also put this in, if you are able to include it in your concluding remarks, Yemi. Is it not in the best interest of the elites? Points were made by Malam here. Is it not in their best interest to sort this country out rather than use poverty as a weapon to dull the people, leading to all kinds of tension in society? If you can take that along with your closing comments, Yemi.
Certainly. I think when Enough is Enough started, that was my, That was my theory of change. Let me put it that way. My simple understanding was that if we get the elite to understand the nexus between governance and their well-being, that in their enlightened self-interest, they will engage and they would participate. They will be interested in the caliber of people who are put forward to run for office. They'll be interested in engaging. We've spent the last, 8-12 years doing exchange rates as people have gone abroad to school. All of my friends that went to public secondary schools will not send their children to public secondary school because of the quality. So my thought was that if we can get them to remember their growing up, what they benefited from the country, how Nigeria was at a certain point in time, that interest will get them, or that nostalgia, shall I say, will get them to pay attention. But honestly, that hasn't been my experience. My experience has been almost a desire to continue to succeed in spite of and despite of. So as long as they are doing well and they can either attach themselves to government or private sector seems to be working well for them, that has been the trajectory. And unfortunately, you then have religious institutions as well who have almost dulled people's minds so that we're waiting for a God. Islam is slightly different just by the nature of the faith in terms of being a bit more there's an English word for it that escapes me. English is not my first language. So there's being a bit more around as Allah wills. But Christianity is a bit more active in the sense that you can design and you can change your surroundings. So, but this whole notion that God, be Allah, be the Christian God, will come and solve everybody as God wills, God is in control. And it's also in our language, God day, it is well. and all the things that we say that literally numbs us from taking action. So yes, do I think the elites have a role to play? A great role to play, and they should in their own enlightened self-interest. Because the more Nigeria faces challenges, the more people knock on your door for support, the more we have security issues to contend with, and you are the targets because you are the ones who live in the houses, drive the cars, and seem to have the things that people who don't have aspire to. So if maybe not the fact that you want the country to be good for everyone, maybe in your own desire to protect yourself from a security perspective, but find a reason to want Nigeria to work. And I'll end on this, because if we then maybe end on this positive note, when Nigeria succeeds, be it at a football match, be it on the world stage with Afrobeats or fashion, we're all very proud. We're all very proud to say, I am Niger. We're all very proud to say that this is from us. This is us. This is Niger. We know they carry last. So we carry that bragado, and that it cuts across every socioeconomic strata, that we are proud of what we produce and how the world sees us. But for that to be sustainable in a country that's struggling with so much, we must fix our leadership and governance issues, because it is out of the people who we say represent us as leaders on the world stage that are making policies, that are thinking 20, 30 years ahead and planning ahead. You cannot have a country that doesn't plan. So if you have people that are about now and what they can get now when they're in office, and are not casting a plan, i.e. a direction for where we're going for the next 20, 30 years, this thing is unsustainable. No matter how we say we're Niger, we know they carry last, though, it is unsustainable. So let's use our Niger, we know they carry last, to actually be interested in doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people.
Thank you so much, Yemi. Final point, madam.
Well, citizens should co-create good governance. The elites should understand that even if you are in a bubble or you japa, your roots are Nigeria. And if Nigeria becomes better, then your descendants will be proud of you. If Nigeria, becomes otherwise, then you will answer to that before God. When we say, as Allah wills, and Allah has given us responsibility, like Jesus has directed our actions. Unless we do that, we are actually not professing even the religion we claim we are professing. So we should move away from these actions so that we can be able to move from what I call hypocrisy of our expectations to sure-footedness, forward-thinking, kind of people that are the elites that drive a society. We are the cohesive forces between the political class or the leadership class, politics, religious and traditional, and the masses. We have a core responsibility. If Nigeria gets better, it is you and I and our ties, Prof. And if Nigeria continues to move into the abyss of backwardness, it is still our responsibility.
Thank you so much, Madam Baba Yusuf, Group CEO of Global Trading and Investment Company, also a policy analyst. And thank you so much, Okoyemi Adamolekun, the Executive Director of Enough is Enough. Thank you both for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me.